Laba diena. Good afternoon. Your Excellencies Ambassadors, dear academic community, esteemed guests, we have gathered today in the Great Hall of Vytautas Magnus University for the second forum of the Idea of Europe, which is devoted to the 20th anniversary of Lithuania's membership in the European Union, and is celebrated along with the 35th anniversary of the establishment of Vytautas Magnus University as the first liberal arts university in Lithuania. The first conference of the Idea of Europe took place here at Vytautas Magnus University in 2022 as part of the program of Kaunas, the European Capital of Culture. We will start the forum with the expert panel on the European Union and its possible futures. And I'm delighted to invite the participants of the panel. Former representative of Sweden to the European Union, Ambassador Lars Danielsson. Rector of Mariupol State University, Professor Mykola Trofimenko. Rector of the University of Latvia, Professor Guntars Berziņš. Vice Rector for International and Local Cooperation of the University of Silesia, Professor Tomasz Piesikovski. And the representative of the European Commission in Lithuania, Ms. Agne Kazlauskaitė. The moderator of the discussion is the researcher at Vytautas Magnus University Faculty of Political Sciences and Diplomacy and Sciences Po Paris, Dr. Emilia Pundziūtė-Galois.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very nice to see you all here on this very beautiful occasion. The university is celebrating 20 years of its existence, and Europe is today at a critical moment. In a few days, Lithuania will be celebrating 20 years of membership in the European Union. We're finishing one political cycle in the European Union. We are approaching European elections. We've been faced with big challenges in Europe, and we're still thinking about the future of Europe, and it is important to discuss it, and it's very symbolic that we discuss it in a university which is a central place of a knowledge-based society, and a society which is in dialogue, where cultures mix and mingle and communicate between each other. I would like to start the discussion by inviting Ambassador Danielsson to give us a perspective, a larger perspective on Europe in the world and also on our region. What have the recent developments, what has Europe given to us and to our region?
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here today, and it's absolutely unbelievable that 20 years have gone since Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, and 6 other countries became members of the European Union. My own country, Sweden, have 30 years, and I remember that the first 10 years of our membership, we devoted most of our time to make sure that you also became members of the European Union. You did most of the work yourself, but we tried to be good friends from the inside. If I look back at those 20 years, what we have done, and because that is important to give a little bit of a perspective of where we are today, we've done a lot of crisis management. And that's inevitable since 2004. We've had the Lehman Brothers crisis, We have migration crisis, we had the pandemic, and of course, more importantly, we now have the aggression against Ukraine. The conclusion I draw from handling all these crises inside the European Union is that our best asset is our unity. When we are united, we can do much, much more. It doesn't really matter what's in the treaty. It doesn't really matter, as long as we stick together, that is when we achieve results, and that is extremely important. But I also think that there is a clear contribution that those countries who came in 2004 have given to the European Union. First of all, it turned the European Union from a club of Western European states to a pan-European organization. That is extremely important. All of you who came in 2004 have also shown that you participate and lead in the European cooperation by example. We who are from the northern parts of Europe, we don't hold 2-hour speeches at the universities. We try to achieve results. And this is extremely important for the further development of the European Union, that you have brought into the European midst this way of working and thinking. Another very important element which you have brought is there is no contradiction between being pro-European and being pro-transatlantic. You can be both at the same time, and you have shown that, and that is extremely important. But now, the defining moment for us now is, of course, how can we make sure that the Russian aggression against Ukraine stops? How can we make sure that the European Union continues to develop in such a way that we can welcome Ukraine as members of the European Union as quickly as possible? It's not all that easy. We know that. Ukraine has an amazing work in transforming its society, even though it's a country in war. But the European Union still has a homework to do. It is very clear that if we define the criteria that we have today and apply them to Ukraine, it will take a little bit too long before Ukraine can become members. We don't have that time. We need to hurry up. We also need to look not so much at the treaty, because that we can manage, but we also need to look at how do we finance the European Union in the future, given, for example, the very important agricultural sector in Ukraine. These issues we'll have to discuss, and not only discuss, but also arrive at decisions as quickly as possible, because Ukraine has the right to be impatient with us. We have a responsibility vis-à-vis Ukraine. Now, this will take some time. It will probably lead to a development of a Europe and a European Union in different speeds. We have that already. All member states of the European Union, including, for example, Sweden and Poland, are not part of the euro. We have other parts of the European cooperation where everyone do not participate. My feeling is, partly my fear is, that this concept of what the French called géométrie variable, concentric circles, that will have to develop further in order to achieve the most important goal, that we get Ukraine into the European community. That is the important part. But that will also put difficult questions. For example, for Sweden and Poland, both countries who want to be proud participants in the European project. Can we do that being outside the euro? Well, I have my answer for Sweden. We cannot, but that's not what we should discuss today. But and that I will end there. The big point for our discussion during the coming 12, 18, maybe 24 months is, how can we make sure that Ukraine can become part of the European Union as quickly as possible? I'm sure that Ukraine will do its part. It's up to us now to do our part. There are some political differences, although I would say that the unity that we show so far has been remarkable, but we need to speed up the work. And as soon as the electoral cycle now is completed, this is the main task. I am very happy that we will have, as part of this important work, a Polish presidency of the Council of the European Union, because that gives also an added incitament to try to work on these issues. So there is a lot of work ahead, but I'm sure we can make it. We always do that in the European Union.
Thank you very much. You mentioned also some rather concrete issues, the tasks that are lying ahead. Agne Kozlowskaite, you're working with a lot of concrete issues as a part of the representation of the European Commission in Lithuania. Jean Monnet has said that Europe has been forged in crisis. What are the lessons learned of these past 5 years, which have been especially challenging, and what is the outlook for the future?
Good afternoon. Excellencies, ambassadors, rectors. It's also a great honor for me to be here today to discuss the future of Europe and the present of Europe. So indeed, well, to rephrase Winston Churchill, who can also be considered as one of the founding fathers of the European Union, the history of the European Union has been going from crisis to crisis without losing enthusiasm. And just like you, Emilia, mentioned, indeed, the last 5 years, the last mandate of the European Commission has been no exception. Indeed, the European Commission not only has worked on its priorities, but it also tackled the crisis. So indeed, if we look back at the year 2020, it seems that we have already forgotten the pandemic, but indeed, very soon after the new commission, the then new commission took its mandate, the COVID pandemic broke out, and the whole world seemed to be stopping, to be at a loss. So indeed, the European Commission ensured the procurement of the vaccines so that everybody in Europe could be safe. So the vaccines reached all the member states of the European Union at the same time, on the same conditions, and moreover, we also shared the vaccines with the other countries outside the European Union, for example, Ukraine as well. So we also set up the special fund, SURE, the abbreviation SURE, and this was aimed at making sure that the businesses don't stop, the people do not lose their jobs, and that was how we avoided what could have been the biggest social and economic crisis. Of course, Russia started waging its brutal war of aggression against Ukraine, and then as tanks start rolling, the European Union and its member states stood up in solidarity with Ukraine. So we all know that the European Union and its member states have provided military, financial, and humanitarian support to Ukraine, and we continue to do this. More than 4 million Ukrainians have found refuge in the European Union, in its member states. I think we all opened our homes and hearts to our brothers and sisters coming from Ukraine. And of course, the European Union took the historic decision to open accession negotiations with Ukraine. So that's also one of the priorities that lies ahead of us, to negotiate and to make sure that Ukraine joins the European Union. Then, for example, if we take energy, Russia has used energy as one of the tools of its blackmail. Just as it launched its assault on Ukraine, Russia also threatened the whole of Europe. They said that you will freeze to death during this coming winter. So this triggered an energy crisis and also the fear of blackouts. And then the European Union made sure that we diversify our energy supplies. We reached out to new partners all over the world to ensure the supply of energy. We also have been increasing the production and generation of energy from the renewable sources. And in last year, in 2023, the European Union produced more electricity from wind than from gas. We have almost doubled the amount of solar energy production in the EU. And indeed, thanks to the combined actions of the European Union and our partners, our member states, today's prices are almost 10 times lower than they were in the peak of the crisis. And one last example to illustrate the crisis that we have been tackling. A hybrid attack. We all remember the year 2021, when Belarus started a hybrid attack against Lithuania, Latvia, and Poland. And that year, over 4,000 migrants entered Lithuania irregularly, which is 50 times as many as in 2020. So again, EU agencies like Frontex, Europol, EU Agency for Asylum, helped Lithuanian authorities to reduce the numbers to manage the crisis. The EU leaders, the leaders of the member states, were also engaging in discussions and debates with the leaders of third countries to make sure that they reduce the number of migrants who fly into Belarus and who then are forced by the Belarusian authorities into the EU. So indeed, in summary, I would say that focus, solidarity, and the spirit of cooperation helps us to stand together, to mobilize our efforts, and to tackle the crisis.
Thank you very much. It shows that Europe has this spirit of resilience and is able to mobilize itself facing crisis. But as you and Ambassador also mentioned, it's impossible to talk today about Europe without talking about Ukraine. And today we have amongst us Professor Mykola Trofimenko from Mariupol State University. We all know the tragic fate that Mariupol has suffered. But you are here today with us, and that is of huge significance. What is your outlook on the future of Europe, on the future of Ukraine, and also on our role as an academic community?
First of all, let me welcome the academic community of Vytautas Magnus University, our twinning best strategic partner with this great anniversary of 35 years from the restoration of your university. Actually, it's very symbolic that Mariupol University was also founded in 1991. It's not very old, but it's almost of the same age with the modern Vytautas Magnus University. Because of the collapse of the USSR, because of the democratical processes, because of the start of the movement of the minorities we had in Donetsk region, where Mariupol is situated, more than 100 nationalities that always lived in peace, actually, without any problems. You know these narratives of Russians that they are protecting the Russian-speaking population, but Mariupol was 90% Russian-speaking, and it didn't stop them from destroying this city. And Mariupol University was always, actually, one of the main goals of this university was to raise the new generation of Ukrainian citizens, of the modern Ukraine, to humanitize very industrial region of Donetsk. And actually our goal was achieved, and we are looking forward actually to our next students, because we are sending them to participate in the mobility projects. We were always in Europe, and we were raising these students with the idea that Ukraine is the part and geographically of Europe and will be the part of European Union, because it's our destiny actually. Mariupol was also the example of presence of Europe in Ukraine, because we used in this city, it was one of the most developed cities in Ukraine, very dynamically developed, using the European mechanisms of investments, of resources. We reconstructed, we tried to renovate all our infrastructure, our procedures to provide services to our inhabitants. We tried to make the life of our people European in this sense, European, comfortable. And in this sense, trying to show to the occupied regions of Donetsk in a soft power means that living in Ukraine is much more comfortable. We were not a dangerous country for Russia. We didn't want war. We tried to use peaceful means by developing and creating comfortable conditions of living for our people. But we were very much annoying for Putin because he understood, and all the Russian government, that Mariupol shows, and the people from the occupied territories, they are coming from Donetsk, for example, that was very much developed before 2014, before it was occupied. When they were coming to Mariupol, they've seen that we have renovated schools, kindergartens, hospitals, roads, and it's much why. It was difficult for Russians to answer this question, why these cities, they are so much developed. And I think that it was one of the results after February 24th, February 2022, that Putin ordered to destroy this city. Because I'm continually repeating that in Mariupol, 120,000 civilians were killed, Russian-speaking civilians. In this sense, he tried to kill this idea of Europe in Ukraine, because we were very much developed because of cooperation and participation in the European projects. Now, after Mariupol was destroyed, Mariupol University was displaced to Kyiv. We're also trying to prove that university, it's not the walls, it's the people, first of all. And if these people are committed to do something great, they will restore and they will actually build up new university with the new walls, with the new ideas, with the new philosophy. And actually, this is what we are doing now in Kyiv. And we are now the example of how Europe participates in these vital processes of preservance of Mariupol identity, because we are renovating and reconstructing our building in Kyiv with the financial support of the European Union. We hosted the Vice President of the European Commission, Margaritis Chinas. He is Greek, and we have also very much Greek background in Mariupol with a huge Greek diaspora. He visited us in Kyiv. It was also a great and symbolic sign that Europe believes in us, that Europe participates actually in the restoration processes, not waiting until the victory will come, actually. And we are very much grateful for these projects. Now I'm here actually because of our friendship with your university community. And Vytautas Magnus University was one of the first who answered our demand for help, for support in the programs of Europe. Vytautas Magnus University community initiated our accession to the European University Alliance Transform for Europe. It was historical, actually, decisions, because we are now very active in these processes. Even we are associate partners, we don't feel it that we are associate. We feel ourselves like full partners of the alliance. And we believe that we will get the full membership very soon. But I want in this discussion to remind you the feeling that the European citizens, you've forgotten what is European Union. I understood this, and I felt actually this feeling very much when I fled Mariupol after the 3 weeks of sitting under the shellings and while Russians were destroying my city and killing our people. When I managed to flee Mariupol on March 15, I managed to get to the Ukrainian-controlled territory on March 16, passing over 20 checking points of Russians through the occupied territories by getting to Zaporizhia. The first feeling was on the Ukrainian territory, on the European territory, I could breathe freely. This is the basic, actually, feeling that you should remember you have. And it's a huge danger that the neighbor can come and can get off, actually, this right to breathe freely. Remember, please remember this, because Ukraine now very cruelly fights to be free country as a part of Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your words are a true witness to the power of human spirit and resilience facing barbarity. And it reminds me also what President Macron said yesterday at Sorbonne, saying that humanism is actually the essential foundation of Europe. And us being in university, we know that we are part of Europe. Also, during the Second World War, the educators met in London and said that peace is built in the heads of people. So first we have to think about education, and then we'll have politics, which reflects what we have in our minds. I would like to invite Professor Gundars Berzinš to tell us a little bit about politics and education.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me, and Director, ambassadors. It's very difficult to speak after so much description of devastation, what happens when we don't have this peace in our heads. And European Union has been established as economic union to avoid wars. That was a foundation principle in the EU, that idea that prosperity for all will make sure that we never go to war with each other. Unfortunately, we didn't consider a situation when somebody from outside has the idea that control is more important than prosperity. And this is now comes to our understanding in day-to-day lives, that somebody's idea of controlling somebody else is important than individual prosperity, individual well-being, life of people. And that is a terrible situation we are in. And now we have to figure out what we can do in this. Any union, organization sticks together if it follows several principles. And one of the principles is that organization provides value for each of the members, and each member provides value to the whole organization. And this principle is very important for us to understand in this particular situation. Second principle is that cohesion principle. Somebody cannot be much more well off than others, otherwise we are not happy in this union. And the third principle, which any organization have to follow, is that we cannot be separated from the realities of the outside world. We in the European Union very often think about ourselves as a complete system, but in reality the complete system is the whole world. So, and competitiveness of EU, ability to defend itself as a whole system becomes more and more important, because the world is changing. And different powers are expressing their willingness to dominate in the world. So we have to be in line with the realities of the world. And now we come to the universities, what universities can do in this situation. And I believe universities can do a lot. Additionally to their existing roles of universities as systems which gathers the knowledge, which creates knowledge, which distributes knowledge to the young and old, and which helps societies create values. That's a traditional university role. But nowadays, in this situation we just are in, I would say that we have 3 more roles. And one more role I would like to really express is universities being like a hub of knowledge exchange. And what that means, that knowledge in the world now are, how to say, increasing exponentially every day. And somebody have to select knowledge in the ways that we can use it efficiently. And universities has this role, exchanging, selecting the and efficiently providing knowledge to the society and giving knowledge to the world, bringing international knowledge to the locations and providing our knowledge to the world. That's one additional function which is very important when the world becomes so globalized. The next item, we have to think about universities as a lighthouse of stability. In so unsettled times as we are in now, somebody has to be the beacon which provides steady flow of scientifically proven information to society. Being the, I would say, opinion leaders in each field we are operating in. In this way, society can have more stable feeling about how do we operate. And as we know, stability and this idea that something is not so fluctuating as it seems in the news gives peace of mind and better understanding how to operate further. But there is one more important part I believe universities in the world now has to be part of, and that's local identities. In the globalized world, country states, each our unique cultural heritages are not perceived as given fact. We have to defend them. We have to show how important it is that our local traditions are kept, and that's basis for our identities and basis for our motivation to develop our states, national states, which are so important for the whole European Union to operate as a coherent system together for the common purpose. And the last, what I would like to say is that, interestingly enough, we are informed about the future of the Europe, but when you look on the Treaty of Rome, the word future was never used in this document. That's interesting to mention. And I would say that we have to think more and more about what's the role of Europe in the future, and to use the word future much more than we used to do it, and think how we gonna be, what's our place in the context of the whole world as a European continent, and provide our values as very important and necessary for the whole world to function as a common well-being of all nations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that the universities are the places where we have the exchange of knowledge, but it's also a place where we have exchange of culture and dialogue. University is essentially the place where the European identity is forged, and it's being protected and defended and to some extent. We are very privileged today to have 3 high-ranking representatives from European universities. So now I turn to Tomasz Pierzikowski. You come from Silesia, which is a central part of Europe. What is your take on this, being European, having this European identity, and the role of university?
Good afternoon. It's really a huge honor and privilege to be here with you, sitting among such an eminent speakers and such eminent audience. So please let me begin with thanking for invitation and conveying to you compliments and best greetings from the academic community of the University of Silesia in Katowice. And let me also congratulate our Lithuanian colleagues for 20 years membership in the European Union. I'm aware that it is a couple of days ahead of the exact date, but I'm afraid I may not have this opportunity in a few days to repeat that congratulations, so please excuse me doing it a little bit in advance. I remember that day of entering, our common entering to the EU. It was, from today's perspective, I regard it as one of the most important, defining, so to say, days of my life, and one of the most moving moments emotionally moving moments of my life. And observing, let's say, those 20 years with one's own eyes really leaves an impression that the reality around us in those new member states changed unrecognizably. And I'm talking now both from the official perspective, so to say, of a representative of the university changed, not even in terms of infrastructure or the visual reality, but internally, in terms of, let's say, mindset, in terms of our relationships with external world, it changed enormously, unrecognizably, and I simply couldn't imagine where we would be if that day didn't happen 20 years ago. And now, trying to answer your question and continuing a little bit that thinking about the role of universities, I would add, let's say, 3 brief observations about the roles of universities in that landscape, let's say, of European integration. Besides those 3 with which I fully agree. But I would add also that universities are a kind of depositaries or custodians, I would say, of European values. And the more difficult times become, the more turmoil in terms of politics, let alone geopolitics, grow, the more blatant, obvious, and important that role of safeguarding those European values becomes. And I think that what Rector Trofimienko described about the reality of Mariupol and the role of University of Mariupol in creating, let's say, the European spirit on the territory of the city is a kind of illustration, exemplification of what I have in mind. We are responsible, let's say, for the European spirit, and we as universities are particularly responsible for sustaining and rethinking and renewing that spirit, the set of values that somehow underlie all those integration and union building efforts. And the second additional special role of universities is that we are a kind of living laboratories of European transformation, of forging the future way of life in Europe, and we are particularly capable of doing so. It struck me, in particular during pandemic times, when it became clear that due to relative autonomy of academic communities and the concentration of expertise, we were capable to carry out much better and more evidence-based policies internally, so to say, toward the members of our communities than the external governments were able to pursue for the general public. We were able to be one step ahead, I would say. And in this sense, it is again our responsibility to be a trailblazers of how the European Union, European societies will look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, which is especially important in times of such a deep transformation, such a deep transition as as Europe is undergoing, with the ambition, clear ambition of the European Union to become the leader globally in changing into, let's say, more sustainable and environmentally climate-friendly future. The only possible intellectual background on which we are capable of regaining this kind of global leadership are universities, our researchers, and higher education resources. And the third, and perhaps most important from my perspective role, as many of you probably remember, a long time ago, European Court of Justice, as it at that time was called, used to be considered as an engine of European integration, mostly due to several landmark famous cases which moved European integration forward by the idea of integration through law. And probably what we know today as the European Union couldn't be possible without that activity by the lawyers community, in particular judges of the European Court of Justice. And I have an impression that today universities becomes more and more engines of further European integration. We are generally speaking much more open, progressive, and so to say enthusiastic toward making the European Union ever closer. And in this sense, it is again a special responsibility and a special role that we have to be this kind of the beacon and sustaining, let's say, the determination to build that union, despite the fluctuations and changes in the, let's say, political reality in various countries around the academic communities. I think that we are able to build on this special spirit that is prevailing at our communities as a new, so to say, new engine, new driver of changes in Europe, in particular in this non-material, non-tangible, but rather spiritual, intellectual sense that is ultimately the most important factor that decides of the future directions and speed of the further development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We still have a little bit of time before the presidents arrive. Unfortunately, we cannot really have a good discussion with the whole, so unless you have a very pressing question and you come all the way to the front, then I can give you the microphone, you can ask the question. But if not, I will try to play that role. From what has been said, we've discussed a lot of things, but there's one issue that I want to address specifically in this place. European Union, Europe has done a lot for our past generations since its conception. It's brought peace to the continent, prosperity, etc. But Europe is also being criticized for a lot of things. It's being slow, it's being a little old. My question is, what can Europe promise for the young people? Because here as well, and also in your universities, young people are the center of what we do. What can Europe promise to the young people? Who would like to? Yes.
I think most young people in all European member states fully understands that if we are to deal with some of the major challenges that will affect our children and grandchildren, we need to have European cooperation. It's about climate change, it's about the migration issue, it's of course about war and peace, but it's also about economic prosperity. What I think we need to show clearer than we have so far is that, I mean, those who mainly govern the institutions of the European Union are men and women my age or a little bit younger. most of them are younger these days, which is fine. But we need to show that there is a keen interest also in listening further to the younger generation. I would hope, for example, when Lithuania takes over the presidency of the European Union next time, it's a few years then, that you will make as one of your commitments that you should particularly listen to the young generation. I think the fact that some member states, in the elections to the European Parliament taking place this year, have decided to lower the age of voting rights to 16 years. Very interesting. I think those are the kind of, let's call it gestures that we need to do in order to show the younger generation that, yes, Europe is for you today, and more importantly, it will be for you tomorrow, because it's the only way in which we can meaningfully tackle some of these challenges which I mentioned.
Would like to.
Very interesting question regarding what we can promise as EU to the young generation. I would say a few things. First of all, I would say that we have to promise that we will be in line with the trends of the world and much faster than we used to be. That would be my greatest hope, how to say, that compliance-based approach European Union takes a lot in different cases, that compliance is more important than results, is going to change, and the result in the tackling the issues of climate change results in tackling the issues of economic development, education, reducing poverty, reducing inequality, and not mentioning and putting in place only bureaucracies, but basically concentrate on the results. I would say that would be a great promise to the young people who wants the results as fast as possible, and they are expecting results.
Agne, would you have something to add?
Yes, thank you. So when we speak about the young people, we usually hear, adults saying that, and with a little bit more mature generation saying that you are the future of our country, or you are the future of Europe. But indeed, I think that we should say that young people, you are the present, you are the decision makers of your country and also of Europe. So what the European Union can offer you, of course, we all know the Erasmus Plus program, this exchange program that facilitates our cultural knowledge, our cooperation, our exchange of experience, and making new friends and knowledges. So I think, that's one of the things that we all know well. And one more thing is that, of course, Europe is there for you. Europe is listening to you. So have your say and express what you want from Europe. And then, of course, Europe will offer the opportunities for this to mature and to flourish together.
Thank you. Another question, and unless you want to come in on youth.
Just one sentence, if I may, adding to the last remark I made in my introductory speech. So if it is true, if it is the case really that the academic communities are these days much more pro-European than average at the societies in which they are located, isn't that the outcome of several student generations of Erasmus Plus program, of Horizon collaboration programs, of European University Alliances initiative, and so on and so on? And if it is the case, isn't that the most beautiful possible evidence of the long-term positive outcomes of investment into the domain that seems on immediate basis very unproductive, so to say, like educating or conducting basic research. But after 20, 30 years, it suddenly turns out that these fruits are really visible, clear, although it is not so obviously connected to the decision made so long ago, launching those programs that in a long term brought about this kind of consequences.
Thank you. Another question that I cannot not ask, especially looking at Professor Trofimenko. Europe was created to promote peace, and it has been successful for a long time. In 2003, we were saying that Europe has never been so prosperous, so peaceful since 2008, 2014 and 2022, we see that war is again threatening Europe. It's not threatening, it's actually happening in Europe. And it's very tragic. What can we do to preserve peace in Europe?
First of all, we should win this war with Russia. This is the basic, actually. And after, we should define the common conditions of living on the continent. And actually, this is the issue our ambassador can also support me, I think, of the peace formula of our president. Because I think, and we hope so much, that the conference that will be held in June in Switzerland and gather all possible countries and all the powers, all the states, all the important institutions to talk about the future of the world security. It will be actually the basis. And of course, all this should be done with the respect of the European values, because we understand what does it mean, European values. It's a freedom, democracy, it's a freedom of speech, and everything we were discussing actually during this panel. But I do believe that all these processes will start after Ukraine will win this war, because actually we are on the right side of history in this battle. And of course we have the support and in different ways of all the civilized world. And Russia, they've shown that they are not a civilized country. They are representing something barbarian, something autocratic, and it's actually the stress Europe needed. Of course, it's very cruel stress, but what I was saying in the beginning, you forgot the precious of what you have. In this sense, actually, I think this is it, the victory.
Thank you. Would anyone like to intervene for any final remarks or anything to add on the same issue? You know, the youth which will also join in this effort of creating peace in Europe. Or I think, yeah.
Just to finalize your idea, I would just add that in EU we have to have a discussion on the subject that the money and values, if you have to choose between income and values, according to European standards, we choose values. And I believe if we have this approach, we will win the war, and we will provide prosperity further on for all the next generations.
Any final remarks? Ambassador, Professor? Okay, I think we really had a very fruitful discussion and inspiring one, and I think that's important to be inspired for the future of Europe. So thank you very much, and please join me in a round of applause to this excellent panel.
Thank you, the esteemed panelists, for your insightful discussion, for all the ideas that you have brought. It's absolutely important that we universities stand within that protection of the idea of Europe, not allowing anybody to kill it, as Professor Trofimenko mentioned. So once again, I would like to announce that we had with us former representative of Sweden to the European Union, Ambassador Lars Danielsson. We had with us Rector of Mariupol State University, Professor Mykola Trofimenko. And I would also like to mention again that Mariupol University is our dear associate partner in Transform for Europe University Alliance, and we all hope them to become our full partner. We also had with us the Rector of the University of Latvia, Professor Gunārs Beržins. And the Vice Rector for International and Local Cooperation of the University of Silesia, Professor Tomasz Piesikovski. And once again, the University of Silesia is our partner at Transform for Europe University Alliance. And we had with us the representative of the European Commission in Lithuania, Ms. Agnė Kazlauskaitė. And I would also like to announce that the European Commission is a partner for that event. So we're very happy that with your partnership, this event is possible. And the moderator of this panel, the researcher of Vytautas Magnus University and also Sciences Po in Paris, Dr. Emilia Pundziūtė-Galois. Thank you. And I would kindly like to ask our panelists to take their seats in the audience. So dear audience, be patient. Our forum is going to proceed very soon. We have some readjustments to be taken care of. And we're expecting the participants of our second panel to join us in a very moment. Прошу, спасибо. His Excellency, President of the Republic of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda, and His Excellency, President of the Republic of Poland, Andrzej Duda. Dear all, we are now starting with the second panel of the forum. And I would like to invite the Rector of Vytautas Magnus University, Professor Juozas Augutis, to give us some welcoming words.
Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Lithuania, Mr. Gitanas Nausėda, Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Poland, Mr. Andrzej Duda, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to welcome you at Vytautas Magnus University for this significant event, the second forum, The Idea of Europe. Today, we recognize and celebrate the enormous work and efforts of Lithuania has made to become a full member of the European Union. It was not only a historical and political journey, but also a personal journey for each of us, contributing to the stronger and more united Europe, to Europe values and to principles of democracy. Unfortunately, it is not enough to recognize common values and democracy, but it's also necessary to define them, and it seems to be a much more difficult task. Paradoxically, the European countries of the old democracies have a harder time for understanding how important it is to define democracy now. And in the same time, most of the new EU members, and especially Poland, Lithuania, and the Baltic countries, are willing to sacrifice much more to preserve European values and order. Here is a good opportunity to thank the leaders of Lithuania and Poland for their determination and efforts in supporting the Russian threat to Europe. Russia's invasion to Ukraine 2 years ago brought us together for common resistance and support to Ukraine. Vytautas Magnus University also actively contributes to this movement. When the war started, under the initiative of First Ladies of Lithuania and Ukraine, at Vytautas Magnus University was established the Ukrainian Center in Vilnius. It is not only a Ukrainian safe haven, but also an important center for culture, diplomacy, and civil society, assisting Ukraine in this European integration. Last year, we opened the VMU Center of Mariupol University, as I strongly believe that academic cooperation is absolutely necessary for Ukraine to protect its intellectual and scientific potential and to keep integrated into Europe academic networks. We have also welcomed more than 300 Ukrainian students a year. We have created possibilities for them to continue their studies and to exchange ideas and make plans on how to return home after victory and rebuild a European Ukraine. Today marks the 31st anniversary of the re-establishment of Vytautas Magnus University. We are happy being part of the European Union has allowed us to build relationships, share best practices, and implement joint projects with other European universities. Together with the universities of Poland, Germany, Italy, and other European countries, we created the European Alliance, Transform for Europe. We actively participate in the 3Cs initiative. As we reflect on the challenges and opportunities facing Europe, let us not forget the transformative power of education. Through education, we can unlock the full potential of our continent and ensure a better future for all. Vivat idea of the Europe. Thank you very much.
Please welcome His Excellency President Gitanas Nausėda, His Excellency President Andrzej Duda, and the Dean of the Faculty of Political Sciences and Diplomacy of VMU, Professor Šarūnas Liekis, for the second panel.
Excellencies, dear friends, colleagues, all honorary guests, today we have an extraordinary possibility to have a discussion between two presidents, not opposing each other, but discussing the important dates in our life. As we know, Poland and Lithuania were from the same historical tradition. Every year we celebrate, remember different dates. And one of these dates this year is 20 years of our membership in the European Union. Apart from that, we have other dates like bilateral treaty, Polish-Lithuanian, for example, 30 years, etc., etc. But today, this discussion is about our membership in the European Union. And for the beginning, I would like to ask both excellencies to give introductory word, and I will call Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda first to speak.
Dear Andrzej, President of Poland, dear rectors, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to address you here at the premises of Vytautas Magnus University. I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate His Magnificence Rector, Professor Juozas Augutis, and the entire academic community on the 35th anniversary of the re-establishment of Vytautas Magnus University. I feel that this institution of liberal arts and science is playing an important role in promoting the European values of freedom, openness, and tolerance at this crucial moment in history. Your humanitarian outlook and perspectives are essential for building narratives of great unifying power. The idea of strong and prosperous Europe is also inseparable from progressive, innovative research. By exploring their scientific potential, Lithuanian and other universities of this region contribute to the common European future. I am grateful to the academic community that transcends national boundaries and helps like-minded countries to communicate. I also hope that today's forum will provide you with much to think about. Ladies and gentlemen, our discussion today is of immense symbolic power. First, it serves as yet another meeting point for Lithuania and Poland. And I think this is crucially important in this day and age when geopolitical tensions are reaching new heights in our region. Not so many countries in Europe have the privilege of sharing such a long and rich history. Lithuania will always see Poland as an important partner whose cooperation has helped us immensely throughout the ages, both in times of peace and war. Even this time of the year, the end of April and the start of May, is replete with dates signifying our strategic partnership. We all remember the Constitution of May 3rd, which is, as the first such legal document in Europe, remains one of the most precious achievements of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. I think we should also pay more attention to the heroes of the Kosciuszko uprising, who exactly 230 years ago bravely fought in defense of European ideals against the rising colossus of the Russian autocracy. I am also happy to note that today, on April 26th, Lithuania and Poland celebrate 30 years since the signing of the Treaty on Friendly Relations and Good Neighborly Cooperation. This agreement has transformed our bilateral relationship, paving the way for close strategic cooperation we are currently enjoying. Lithuania and Poland are much stronger together. We have numerous interlapping interests, the chief among them ensuring national and regional security at a time of great geopolitical tensions. The joint military exercise, Brave Griffin, we conducted this week in Lithuania and we participated today, is yet another proof of our goodwill and most serious intentions. Second, the symbolic power of today's event derives from the realization that only in a couple of days, Lithuania, together with Poland and other 8 European countries, will celebrate 20 years since joining the European Union. We have entered this great community of nations with great hopes and even higher expectations. And while it is always risky to rely on our dreams too much, we are not disappointed. Over the last 20 years, Lithuania has been one of the fastest growing European countries. Up to this day, our people remain among the most committed supporters of European Union. One could hardly find any other member country whose population so strongly believes in the great opportunities offered by the single market. On the other hand, the European Union that we entered is also different from what we have today. And the greatest change we are about to witness is not so much internal as it is provoked by the changing external circumstances. Let me remind you that in 2003, 1 year before the great enlargement of the European Union, American thinker Robert Kagan famously declared Americans to be from Mars and Europeans from Venus. He called on the Europeans to turn away from power in international relations and move towards, I quote, a post-historical paradise of peace and relative prosperity. To Kagan and others like him, Europe was temporarily lost in the belief that it was possible to achieve a perpetual peace merely by negotiations and cooperation among similarly thinking countries. Today, this great dream of lasting peace on the European continent is shattered. Decades spent trying to accommodate Russia and move it closer to Europe have brought nothing. In the wake of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the European Union found itself confronted by yet another ruthless aggressor, not willing to abide by the rules. Today, the Ukrainian people are fighting not only for themselves. They are defending Europe, our values, our identity, and our people. And crucially, they are helping us to gain more time, the time we must spend wisely. For too long, Europe has been entangled on its own fantasy of perpetual peace. This is where Robert Kagan got it right. As it turned out, it is not easy to ensure peace without taking care of power, after all. Now, Europe needs to ensure that it remains both strong and secure in the foreseeable future and mobilize available resources in support of Ukraine. Our actions must be guided by a clear understanding that Russia currently represents the greatest threat to Europe. Lithuania already knows it, Poland knows it, and the rest of the European Union knows it too. The challenge for us now is to increase the speed of decision-making, to unlock all of our potential. We must adjust our economies, invest in our security, and rebuild a sustainable defense industry. By accomplishing that, we will also emerge as a stronger, bolder, and more self-confident partner to like-minded countries. Europe will always need a strong transatlantic link, and we will always cherish the security guarantees that come with it. However, the time has come for us to take more responsibility for our own security environment. The time has come for us to counter the spread of harmful ideas and influences in our backyard. For too long, Europe has largely ignored Russia's efforts and those of some other countries to entangle us in a net of disinformation and propaganda, and to control the present by rewriting the history. Today, we must strive for a greater resilience and promote European memory, with special attention to the victims of totalitarian regimes. We must also stay committed to expanding the space of freedom, stability, and prosperity beyond the current borders of European Union and NATO. No external actor should have a say in where Europe ends. It is only for us to decide on the basis of our shared values. Today, I have no doubt that Ukrainian people so bravely fighting Russia's military aggression belong to this great new Europe of the future, and I believe in their final victory. I also hope that other European Union Eastern partners, as well as the Western Balkan countries, will remain true to shared European values. That ultimately means staying true to oneself. That means resisting the forces of darkness that threaten to engulf our world. And truly, there is nothing more important than that. Thank you so much.
And here I would like to invite the President of the Republic of Poland, Andrzej Duda, to give an introductory speech.
Honorable Mr. President, His Magnificence Rector, dear Lithuanian friends, ladies and gentlemen. Polish-Lithuanian relations are now almost 6.5 centuries old. The partnership and alliance of our states and nations has multiplied. Our common strength brought mutual prosperity and created a new quality in terms of political power and civilizational progress in the vast territory of Central and Eastern Europe. It is impossible to tell the story of Europe or to build Europe's future without mentioning the great heritage that we, Poles and Lithuanians, have created together. I proudly recall this great heritage when a year ago, on the 6th of July, I participated in the celebration of Lithuania's National Day in Vilnius. Together with President Nausėda, we celebrated the 770th anniversary of the coronation of Mindaugas, founder of the unitary state of Lithuania. Today we are meeting in Kaunas at the university named after Vytautas the Great, the outstanding ruler of Lithuania. Together with the Polish King Władysław Jagiełło, Grand Duke Vytautas was the co-creator of the victory at Grunwald, Žargilis. This victory marked the breakthrough in the strategic balance of power in our part of Europe. The later act, which was not a military victory, but the work of our mutual solidarity and political wisdom, had the same significance. Being free with the free, equal with the equal, in 1569 we created a common state, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. This economic and military power, based on the pillars of civil liberties, parliamentarism and democracy, shaped the course of history in our part of the world for centuries, successfully standing up to despotic and imperial Moscow. The Polish-Lithuanian state demonstrated the power of free, sovereign nations working together. It was a pioneering achievement in the field of European integration. We recall the words of Pope John Paul II. From the Union of Lublin to the European Union. This historical reflection expresses admiration for the great achievements of Poles and Lithuanians in laying the foundations of today's united Europe. For 20 years, our nations have been part of the European community. It was a clear and fundamental choice. Just as we entered the Western cultural circle centuries ago with the adoption of Christianity, membership of the European Union and NATO is now a permanent anchorage for us in a Western world. A world which was always been our civilizational home. We are helping to build and strengthen the European area of freedom, security, and development. Participation in the European community of homelands is a sovereign decision of our people. It is an opportunity we are making the most of to leapfrog the economy, expand trade, reach out to international markets, develop infrastructure, and multiply the prosperity of our societies. Anyone looking for a model of success should look to the 20-year record of Poland and Lithuania in the European Union. This success is also a result of our mutual understanding, trust, and partnership. It is significant that today, a few days before the anniversary of our presence in the European Union, we are also marking the anniversary of the signing of the Treaty on Friendly Relations and Good Neighborly Cooperation between our countries. Polish-Lithuanian rapprochement and overcoming the burden of our difficult 20th century history become one of the acts of building a united Europe after the fall of communism. the will for freedom, and the rejection of Soviet domination by Poles and Lithuanians confirm that, beyond the differences of memory, we are more strongly united by a sense of community. We are together, we are partners, allies, and friends. We can talk about any issues, even difficult ones. Therefore, I believe that we will soon be able to say that all provisions of the treaty have been fully fulfilled. For the sake of both our nations, in the name of good neighborly cooperation. I firmly believe that it is through our closeness and cooperation that we will overcome all the challenges and threats that come from the East in these troubled times. Together, we are stronger. We are nations of success and victory. Long live an independent Lithuania. Long live an independent Poland.
Thank you for the introductions, and today we come to the questions as well. So the first question would go to the President of Republic of Poland, and the question goes as following: what are the main geopolitical challenges for the European Union, and what would be the main priorities of the upcoming Polish presidency in the Council of the EU? Yes.
First, let me thank again President Gitanas Nausėda for inviting me to Lithuania to take part, to join today's exercise of our soldiers and this very important and very nice meeting. Thank you very much. Answering the question, geopolitical challenges for European Union. We have a lot of challenges now in European Union, and I think that if you ask this question on the forum of European leaders, you could receive many, sometimes different answers. Because, you know, the observation, the point of view for challenges depends on where you are. Where is your country? What's the problem of your neighborhood? What's your reality? Our reality is today, unfortunately, Russian aggression against Ukraine and threat of potential Russian invasion against other countries, yes? We know our history very well. We talked about this history a lot with my great friend, President Gitanas Nausėda. This history sometimes is very painful for us, for our family, for our nations, especially because of the hundreds of years of Russian occupation, hundreds of years of Russian terror, and all these difficult memories connected with Russia. So we are afraid of potential Russian imperialism and their greed of having other nations and countries in their zone of influences. As I said, as I remember last time here in Kaunas, we don't want Ruski mir never again. We don't want it. We don't need it. We have our culture. We have our tradition, we have our religion, Spasiba. Thank you very much. But challenges, so this is the great challenge for European Union today. To really open the door to European Union for Ukraine and Moldova. Despite of war, despite of Russian aggression, despite of potential horrible costs of recovery of Ukraine after the war. We have to handle this burden. We have to help Ukraine. We have to rebuild Ukraine. We have to help Ukrainians, and we have to do everything we can to have Ukraine in the future as an equal member of European Union. This is, in my opinion, our greatest challenge for today, for us in Poland, or also for Lithuania, for Baltic states, for our part of European Union, but I believe also for European Union in general, because Ukraine, if it is a member of European Union, it's easy to imagine, will be the biggest country in the European Union, because it's 2 times bigger than Poland. Poland is 322 square kilometers, 1,000 square kilometers is the area of Poland, and Ukraine is more than 640,000 kilometers. So 2 times bigger than my country. And I think that Ukraine will be the biggest member of European Union from this point of view. Of course, the density is relatively lower than in the rest of European Union. But in general, Ukraine has a tremendous potential in Ukrainians and also in natural resources. So I think that for European Union, Ukraine and recovery of Ukraine is a pure investment for a very beneficial future. Because in my opinion, we will gain a lot of benefits from their membership in European Union. This is my opinion. It is a great market with a lot of new potential client consumers, and we have great benefits from their membership in European Union, but we have to invest. We have to invest our efforts, political efforts, and also we have to invest our money, and we should do that.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next question goes to the President of the Republic of Lithuania, Gitanas Nausėda. Political leaders and experts are increasingly talking about strengthening EU-NATO ties and interoperability. What be your assessment on possibilities to strengthen those ties?
First of all, I would like to say, as many times I was asked the same question, I said that Lithuania is one of the most enthusiastic supporters of transatlantic bond. And this is very important to keep this relation and this cooperation very strong in the future. I remember President of France, Emmanuel Macron, started to talk about strategic autonomy a few years ago. At that time, he has been criticized, quite heavily criticized for this idea, because many of us realized or understood this idea as some competition between Europe and the United States. Today, I am again thinking about the definition of strategic autonomy, and I start to understand that this definition has different content that it used to have several years ago. In today's context, it means that strategic autonomy means that Europe must become stronger, especially in the defense field, in order to be equal partner to United States. And I think this is very beneficial for both, for Europe and for United States. We have a lot of possibilities to support Ukraine even more, but we are efficient only if we are united. Let me remind you the recent decision of Europe to establish this macro-financial assistance package to Ukraine. It was 50 billion euros for Ukraine's needs, but at the same time we realized that this is not sufficient. This is not enough in order to solve all Ukrainian problems. And only after United States took the decision to support Ukraine by with additional 61 billion American dollars, we can say that this is manifestation of our goodwill and our strong commitment to take all necessary and adequate measures to support Ukraine and to keep Ukraine strong in resisting Russian occupation. And we have a lot of other examples where our united efforts bring much more than our individual actions. For Lithuania itself, of course, we have a lot of footprints of America here. We have a rotational battalion in Pabrade. We have assistance of United States in many fields, including, of course, our economic cooperation. And I cannot imagine the safety and security of my country without this footprint. So as a consequence or as a conclusion, I think that this is very important to keep, despite those political cycles and possible outcomes of the elections on both sides of Atlantic Ocean. We have to keep this transatlantic bond strong, because this is very important for NATO, and this is even very important for European Union. And, you know, I was told one wise man said a very strong sentence about the sense of our membership in European Union and NATO. He said, European Union is for better life, NATO is for life. And I think this describes the situation very precisely. However, probably right now, Europe is trying to be more defensively orientated, takes more responsibilities, initiated the actions of development of defense industry. And maybe in the future, we will be able to say that European Union is for life too. But right now, I think all those, both organizations are critically important for Lithuania, and symbolically we celebrate our membership, the anniversary of our membership in both organizations, 20 years. This is a significant moment of our history. We achieved a lot, and I am sure that in the future we will achieve even more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the answers. And right now we have one common answer and question to get, from the excellencies. So the question is basically having like two parts. 2 weeks ago, the 9th summit of the Three Seas Initiative took place in Vilnius. And President Duda, from what we know, you were the founding father of the initiative that at the beginning was perceived as a kind of opposition to the EU. I just wondered to what extent this perception was right or wrong. And the second part of the question is, what is the contribution of the 3C initiative to the development of the Eastern EU member states and the EU as a whole? So basically, you choose who wants to start first. Yeah.
First of all, I would like to to thank, dear Andrzej, you, that you are the founding father of this very important initiative 10 years ago. And we really were honored to be chosen by our partners to organize and to take the presidency of 3Cs initiative this time. It was 9th summit of 3Cs initiative. I know that there are ideas, or there were ideas in the past, that 3Cs initiative is, there is some ambiguity of the tasks and goals of 3Cs initiative. Maybe it should be treated as a competition to the European Union. I think those doubts and those rumors are gone, and right now we understand very well the content and the sense of 3Cs initiative. First of all, 3Cs initiative is about our connectivity. Connectivity not based on West-East axis, because it is closed. Because of geopolitical reality, the trade flows, we can barely imagine intense trade flows or investment flows or services flows between Western and Eastern countries. By saying Eastern countries, I have in mind, first of all, Belarus and Russian Federation. Instead of that, we have to create north-south axis. And this is an excellent idea, to start to think about connectivity of south-north axis in order to build necessary infrastructure, in order to encourage trade flows to go easier, and of course people movement, to encourage people movement, tourists movement, and so on. And by saying connectivity, I have in mind also military mobility, because yesterday, or let's say a few years ago, the connectivity was first of all based on economic assumptions, economic factors. Right now, this is based on our security issues too, because connectivity, good connectivity, means ideal or very good military mobility. And military mobility in this geopolitical context means a lot. So this is important. Secondly, energy and energy synchronization. Lithuania is a country, it's a country which did a lot in the past to create energy independence, and we are in the stage of completion of this process. Still, there are some houseworks to do, and first of all, I have in mind the energy synchronization with continental Europe. But this is not only about us. This is also about other countries of Eastern flank, and especially aspiration countries, Moldova and Ukraine. This is very important to help, to assist Ukraine in rebuilding, reshaping energy infrastructure. And of course, reconstruction of energy and transport infrastructure for Ukraine is another very important field of our activities too. And also there are other ideas, and I am really proud to say that Vilnius summit was a successful one. Probably we were encouraged by a quite good example and our good experience last year as we organized the NATO summit in Vilnius. And Lithuania is able and is mature enough to organize such kind of events at the highest level. I think this is very important to keep united, to implement those goals we set up in the past. And what is extremely enjoyable for me, that this initiative is expanding. And we invited one new strategic partner in Vilnius, and it was Japan. Japan, the country far away from us, but interested in participating in the activities of Three Seas initiatives. So also adding that business forum, which took place at the same time as political Three Seas conference, gathered 1,000 businessmen. And this forum was excellent opportunity for the businessmen to meet each other, to have business-to-business contacts, to communicate with different kind of international organizations. And businessmen are very pragmatic people. And if they came to Vilnius, it means that they saw the reason, they saw the rationality to participate in this forum, and it lets me to think that we will have expanding business relations and business investments in the future. So right now I can transmit my presidency to you, dear Andrzej, because you will be the president of Three Seas Summit next year, and it will be a symbolic event because 10 years ago you started this initiative, and after 10 years of existence, you will be able to draw some conclusions. How successful is it? How promising is it? And of course, it will be very important to gather all of us again in Warsaw and to enjoy our unity.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, dear Gitanas. Thank you for calling me this so-called father, yes, or I prefer that co-founder, co-initiator of the initiative, together with former president of Croatia, Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic. That's true. We met in 2015 in the autumn in Kraków. That was our first meeting, just before the economic forum in Krynica. And we talked about the possible ways of cooperation, possible forms of cooperation, and that was the moment when this idea of three initiative of this cooperation in Central Europe, in a way of investments of infrastructure, was born. But firstly, I would like to congratulate President Gitanas Nausėda and all my Lithuanian colleagues involved in the preparations of the summit and business forum of the last meeting of the Three Seas initiative here in Vilnius a few weeks ago. It was a great success. I would like to emphasize. Gitanas, thank you very much. Well done, great job. Thank you very much. You know, I was moved seeing the table and 25 participants around the table. You have to remember that Three Seas initiative, this is 13 participants, 13 states who are members of the initiative, countries which are also members of European Union and are here in this part of Europe, in Central Europe, between Black, Adriatic, and Baltic Seas. And the rest of participants were representatives of the countries who are associated partners. For example, President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, but also Prime Minister of Moldova, for example, and strategic partners of the Three Seas Initiative, the representative of the United States of America, the representative of Germany, the representative of Japan, and the countries, the representatives of the countries, United States, I mentioned, as I remember. Okay, doesn't matter. Thank you. And representatives of the countries who are interested in the idea of this cooperation, and representative of the European Commission. Of course, I remember there were at the beginning accusations that this idea, this project, the Three Seas Initiative, was born in the opposition to the European Union. But I would like to assure you, actually, it was quite the opposite at the beginning. The opposite, because the idea was to boost cooperation in our part of European Union, to use the European funds, especially those European funds dedicated for cohesion of the European Union, more efficiently, more efficient way, to talk about the investment and to connect the infrastructure investments. For example, Via Carpathia. This is the best possible example. The motorway connecting Lithuania and the rest of Baltic states across Poland with southern European countries, through Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, to Greece. That was the idea, to boost cooperation in our part of European Union, to create this part of European Union more developed, richer, to increase the average standard of living in our part of Europe, our standard of living. That was the idea of the Three Seas Initiative, and that's why we decided to create this. Of course, we also thought and we also talked, I remember this discussion with Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic about the energy problem and the problems, especially the problems with Russia and potential problems with Russian gas supplies. You have to remember that the meeting in Krakow was in 2015. And that was after the blackmail against Ukraine taken by Russia at the beginning of the 21st century. Do you remember this situation? When Russia closed the pipes and Ukraine has no gas during the winter? So we were afraid. And we talked with Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic, we have to do something to support the rest of our countries and to build real independence in that area, in the area of gas supplies. And the idea was to connect two LNG terminals. Our terminal in Świnoujście, LNG terminal in Świnoujście, and Croatian LNG terminal in Kirk Island. That was the beginning of the initiative, and that was the first topic we talked about. So connectivity, development of the European Union was the base of the idea of Three Seas initiative.
So, thank you very much for the answers, and basically we have to finish right now. I mean, I'm very sorry for that, because the answers were very interesting, insightful, sincere, and empathic. And however, this opportunity is not the only one. I hope in the future we'll have many more discussions with both the excellencies. And I just want to thank them for the effort, for the job what they are doing, and they're doing the great job. And I hope, you know, to see in the same audience and in the same hall both the President of Lithuania and the President of Poland, you know, in near future. Thank you. Sure.
I would like to thank you, dear Andrzej, for excellent cooperation we have. And you probably did not calculate, but my colleagues calculated that we met with you bilaterally, even in international events, 35 times during my stay in office. So I think this is really a great example how neighboring countries can cooperate and how they can achieve much better results than going individual ways.
Is it love?
May I leave this question rhetorical one?
We express our sincere gratitude. We express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency President Gitanas Nausėda, His Excellency President Andrzej Duda, and Professor Šarūnas Liekis, and kindly ask you to take a place in the audience. Thank you. We also thank everyone who have participated in this very important forum. And we are now going to invite Kaunas State Choir to complete our event with the anthem of the European Union, the Ode to Joy from Beethoven, Ninth Symphony. The artistic director of the choir, chief conductor, Professor Robert Šervenikas. Thank you once again. The forum is declared over, and His Excellencies, the President of the Republic of Lithuania, Gintanas Nausėda, and the President of the Polish Republic, Andrzej Duda, are leaving.